Well, kids, here we are, Monday, March 30th. Digital Learning Day, I don't know, 7, 8, something like that. Kind of losing track of our days here, seeing that we're apart. Just a quick review here where we left off last time. We finished the discussion talking about the Coriolis effect. Remember the example of you and I sitting across from each other on a merry-go-round. I throw this, you catch it? Probably not if it's spinning around. The reason the ball ends up where you're not anymore because the merry-go-round is moving. The same thing happens with air and water on Earth. The Earth is spinning underneath it, and so it causes the air to curve in certain directions in certain places on planet Earth. Very briefly, then, we wrapped up with these global wind patterns. We talked about the trade winds being important for early explorers. We talked about the doldrums being a place that you don't ever want to end up in. It rains every afternoon typically, and also there's not very much wind. It's so hot, the air rises there, and it doesn't blow the sails to move them. So those were the global wind patterns and the Coriolis effect. Quick side note on the Coriolis effect, and don't do this now. There was an internet rumor about the Coriolis effect that said that because of the rotation of the Earth, the water in a toilet bowl swirls in the opposite direction in the southern hemisphere as it does in the northern hemisphere. Not right now, not until after you've taken the quiz for the day, but after that, do a quick Google search, see if you can find what the right answer is to that. Of course, we know you can't always rely on everything that we hear on the internet. All right. Now today, a couple of short ones that we're going to go through to finish up this chapter, and then we'll talk about how we're going to proceed from there. The first thing that we'll talk about today is the first thing on this list, and that's the jet stream. The jet stream are some pretty substantial winds at the top of the troposphere, bottom of the stratosphere, and the jet stream separates large areas of air. As you can see in the book, colder air that's to the north of us is separated from the warm air that's below us by the jet stream. And what that does for us then is, depending upon where the jet stream is, will determine what kind of air we have over us here in Wisconsin. If the jet stream is below us, like you see here in the book, the cold air from the north overtakes our area and our temperatures are lower. When the jet stream rises above Wisconsin, it allows in this warm, moist air from the south, and our temperatures go up. And so the jet stream separates those large air masses. That's going to be very important when we start talking about weather, probably Wednesday. We'll start to get to that. One other thing about the jet stream, as you can see the direction of the jet stream. Now, the jet stream, there's some ups and downs and so on and so forth, but in general, it moves from west to east. So if you're flying an airplane, a commercial airliner, for instance, it costs less money for the airlines to fly west to east because the wind pushing at the back of the plane allows the plane to use less fuel, and it also speeds up travel times. So an interesting thing when we end up, getting through this COVID-19 pandemic that we're in right now, when people start to travel again, if you have that opportunity and you travel west to east or east to west, keep track of the flight times. Let's say Denver, which is, in this neighborhood of my cursor here, Denver to New York, that flight time will be less than New York to Denver. It's the jet stream, and those airliners use it to their advantage whenever they can. All right. Separates air masses. Don't forget that. It's probably going to be on the quiz. Last thing for the day, sea breezes and land breezes. These are local wind events, all right? I have them up on the board of learning here as well. Sea breeze and land breeze. The key factor to remember with the sea breeze and the land breeze is this. Water retains its temperature. It holds its temperature better than land does. Land heats very quickly during the day, and it cools very quickly at night. Water stays much more even. So what that means is during the day, and you can see in the two pictures that we have here, the land is in the summer, of course, or in the southern, regions of our country. The land heats up quicker than the water does, so the land is warmer than the water. The air above the land is warm and it rises, which brings in the cool air off of the sea. And in this case, we would call that a sea breeze. The wind is coming from the sea to the land. Same place, now at night. The water, the temperature isn't really going to change all that much, maybe a couple of degrees at the most. But the land is going to cool off substantially. So at night in these locations, the land becomes cooler than the water. So above the water, the air rises, and on the land, the air sinks, hits the surface, and moves out to sea. So we would call this a land breeze. The wind is coming from the land to the water. So people that live on the coast, let's say, during the day, if you're down in Florida, typically you're going to have a nice breeze off of the Gulf of Mexico during the day, and at night that wind will shift and it'll go from the land out into the water. So that's the difference between a sea breeze and a land breeze. And let's take a look. I think that is it. It gets us to the end of section 3, which also gets us to the end of the chapter. So here's how we're going to move forward. Today, there will be a 10-question quiz. We're changing the way that we're grading, pass, fail, those kinds of things. No longer are we going to be doing any of the worksheets in the packet for the atmosphere, and we'll see how that works for weather moving forward. There's going to be a 10-question, quote-unquote, quiz today. It's going to have everything to do with what I just talked about. Jet stream, sea breeze, land breeze, what causes them, what they do, those kinds of things. Answer the 10 questions after you've watched this video, while you're watching the video, while you're looking at your textbook. Use your resources. This is not stuff that had to stick in your head. You can use your resources for these quizzes. Get it taken care of, get it turned in, and then we'll move on to tomorrow. Tomorrow's lesson is going to be a quick review, quickish review of the entire chapter. I'm going to go through page by page fairly quickly, and I'm just going to touch on the main important ideas that you needed to have from the atmosphere section. After that, there will be a more substantial quiz, let's say 15 to 20 questions, that's going to encompass the entire chapter. If you'd like to think of it as a chapter test, you may think of it that way, but it will be, as I said, in the neighborhood of 20 questions or so. If everything goes well, on Wednesday, we'll start talking about weather. All right. So with that said, anything that you need from me, Google Hangouts, Google Meet, email, I am always available. I will not respond to you if you email me at 2 o'clock in the morning, but first thing in the morning I will. All right. Get a hold of me. I'll help you with any of this stuff so that you can learn just as much as you possibly can while you're where you're at, and I am stuck where I'm at. So with that said, I will see you tomorrow.